Hello, I'm Armin and I'm the founder of the Paula's Boutique in Ibiza. I came here in 1972 running away from Germany because I had my problems there with my marriage and found myself in Ibiza together with a whole bunch of other people from all over the world who had similar or same problems like me, and we all didn't have much money and found ourselves in an island which was a paradise, and this new situation opened up our creativity. In our case, we founded and opened the boutique Paula's in the Calle de la Virgen in Ibiza. And of course, now we are in 2020. Stuart, he was setting up this little corner here and made it look exactly like the boutique in the 70s, and it has that same magic that made our place famous. And, was such an attraction of the island, and it was an attraction for all the tourists that came there. So when we opened, neither me had any skills for making dresses, nor Stuart had any skills for selling dresses. Plus, the majority of the tourists were German, and he didn't speak a word of German. So what to do? I decided to show him one single sentence and one action, and he followed it minutiously. And that was take a dress, open it up, show it like this, and say, look, I have a beautiful dress for you, and you absolutely have to try it on because I want to see how it looks on you. It just came new in the shop, and I want to see how it is. And he went like this for 30 years. He learned that phrase in German, and from that on, he developed his German skills. Yeah, we always had hats with the dresses. That was a 70s hat, yeah, in an old material which we found in Ibiza, curtain material from the 50s. Then with the time it got a little bit more professional, and I was from the beginning very much interested in technique and fine workmanship. Like I made this very simple blouse, which is a short blouse with a short sleeve, but this is all hand stitched like on a suit. You see here on the cuff, and the collar is hand embroidered, and the buttons are covered with material, and the buttonholes are made by hand. Yeah, so it's a little jewel of handicraft, but very simple, straight but fitted cut, and it's beautiful with a belt and just short on the beginning of the hips it ends. It's a very, very nice blouse, and we used to do this blouse in the 70s. We developed in the 70s, and we were selling it until the year 2000, that same model. Same with other things, like this material of the LOEWE, which we made at the beginning of the 80s, and we used it until 2000. Beginning of the 80s, we end of the 70s, and we used it for more than 20 years, and we had about 15, 16 different color combinations in it. The print itself has 12 different colors. Yeah, this is all hand printed, and it's a beautiful possibility to try out all kinds of color combinations. Like LOEWE in the first year used it in yellow. You see just a teeny bit here on the back. That is the same print in yellow. So another specialty was to mix the prints that we had and use them in a simple cut like a normal vest, but use different colors and different prints, mix them together asymmetrically. And that was one of our trademarks. And on this particular vest here, sorry, you can see the print of the mermaids. And for that I have to ask you to come to that cabinet here, which was in the corner of the boutique, and in the same setup how it is now. And for example, to show you my inspiration, I have a little Chinese ivory statue here of a little man on a fish, which you can see on the material there, right? And then you also, in the 90s, I made this perfume. We created this perfume here in a nice carved crystal bottle. And that perfume bottle is also here on the mermaid print floating in the water. And the rest of the mermaids, they are all here in the cabinet, yeah? They are all lying there. And that is how this material came about. And LOEWE is using it this year in this exact color also, yeah? Then right from the beginning, we did street theater because creation was our main story. We had, and it is not, you cannot separate it and only do creation in material and fashion. It was our whole life. So we were a bunch of friends and we had so much energy that we had to go out in the street and do shows and theaters in the street. The public was just the people that happened to be in the street. One day I was walking along the port and I saw a trailer and a container. So I got the idea to use the container as a dressing room and the trailer in front of it as the stage. So we made actions and happenings there. This is one of the dresses that we used also in the happenings that we did in the discotheques. That was Diana. She wore this dress. She was one of my favorite models at the time, and she was the owner of the wife of the owner of the discotheque Glories, which only happened for about 5 or 6 years. Last year it fell completely apart. It was a ruin all these 30 years, and last year it fell completely apart. And but we also made our fashion more elaborate and more crazy, and did skirts like this here, which was quite strange for normal people to wear and normal occasions. Yeah, but we had the customers in that time because Ibiza came more and more fashionable, more rich people came here, more famous people came here, and everybody wanted to see the boutique. So they was attracted by all this magic here, which Stuart created. And for the fashion shows, we also used, of course, more simple dresses, more wearable dresses, like this was one of our most successful summer models. And, this particular print is also in the collection of LOEWE this year. And we connected it with more elaborate props, like this hat here, which the story of it is that the raw hat without any decoration was a gift from my friend Tyke from Louisiana, who is still here on the island and still helps me when I have to make any text in English. He corrects me. And over the time, we added and added things to this hat, and we used it in 2 different fashion shows. And the last version, what you see here, is what we used for the opera Cinderella. This is another opera costume. We're coming now from the boutique through the street theater to the opera, and you see that same water lily, which is on this print here in a different color, mixed here together with other prints in a costume for the opera. This was for Tosca. So we can slowly move over to the other room where we have opera costumes, yeah? And passing by, we see that Paula sign, which was from the almost the first day or the first year, let's say, when we opened the shop until 2000. It was in front of the shop, coming out of the wall, so you could see it on one side like this and on the other side like that. Right? And so here I show you some of the opera costumes, which are all separate now and squished all together, of course. This, for example, was for Die Fledermaus, the bat from Strauss. And this was the Night Queen from the Magic Flute. This was Papagena from the Magic Flute. And this was Tosca herself as Tosca. This was for Cinderella. And this was again Tosca Scarpia, together with this hat. Right, and here we have a curious little table, which is a button machine, just to show you how we was working handicraft. They did it all by hand, because like these buttons I made myself, or Stuart made also. We did that. It was not fabricated in a factory. And this is a drawing from '83, which, as I'm an architect, I was an architect in Germany. It was nothing for me to make a little drawing like this for a table. And I show you how buttons was done. Yeah, you have here, I have it prepared for you. Little cutouts of our material. And I take jetzt, for example, this one here. So I put it in this form. Put this on top of it and push it down. Okay. That was the top of the button. This is the bottom of the button with a little thing here to sew it on. This goes in here. And this one goes on top. And then we just do like this, and the button should come out perfectly. There it is. So that's the covered button. Right, so here's some drawers for all the accessory things and the different forms for different sizes of button, because of course we use bigger ones and smaller buttons. And here I can show you a skirt. I don't know if you remember yesterday or some days ago, there was a picture of me in the 70s together with Lord from Paris, supermodel at the time. Very, very beautiful. It was in our first fashion show, big fashion show in the casino in Ibiza in '82. And this is a skirt in original that you see on that photo that is in Instagram now. So here we have another little blouse which comes from our very, very first fashion show also. Was together with also very big skirt. All these things, of course, are, you can only do it one by one and hand by hand. It's not, nothing is produced, even though we did repeated our models, of course. After a while, we had models that was working very well, and we had, like I showed you before, this little blouse that was done at the end of the 70s, and we kept it until 2000. And another dress, the dress that I showed you before, that is called Belinda, and that we also made in the 73 even, in the second year, 72, 73. At that time, Mora was here in Ibiza. She was one of my biggest inspirations for dresses, and she was looking beautiful in that dress. That was her favorite dress. There's many photos with her with that dress because it is very, very wide open, and she had very strong bosom, and it looked stunning on her. She was very attractive. My other big inspiration and muse at the time was Jonas, XXL lady from America, dark skin, and she was one of my very, very best friends. And I met her in a discotheque where she was a go-go girl in 1972 in the old town in Ibiza before any other discotheques was happening. And we became friends, and she was our mascot, our, how do you say that, our brand image of the boutique, because she was most of the time sitting in front of the door with these huge, huge forms and with these beautiful dresses and beautiful flowing material. Because when I met her, I was fascinated by her size. And I just wanted to make a dress for this huge, huge body that looked good. Yeah, and she, of course, was very happy that I wanted to do that. So when the first dress came out, it was very flattering for her forms, and she was very happy, and I was very happy. So what I did, I reduced that huge, huge dress to a normal size and to a very teeny size. And I found out that it came out with so much charm, like a little model from an architecture house or like a little car model, yeah. And from that time on, I did most of my dress designs on Jonas, on that huge, huge, huge body, and reduced it afterwards to the normal sellable sizes.
And how did the hippie movement contribute to Paula's spirit?
Well, the hippie movement is a whole story in itself, because everybody knows what hippie is, freedom and love and easygoing and no problems and everything is fine and we have no war and no fights and we love each other and we are swimming off that wave of beauty and of harmony. And of course, that was at the beginning very, very attractive and very, very beautiful, because the outer conditions for that were perfect. Ibiza was natural. The people, the inhabitants in Ibiza were very unprejudiced and very, very friendly and very generous. And you could sleep outside if you didn't have a house because the climate was good. You felt like in a paradise, and you could just go ahead living and doing your things and be friendly with everybody. That was going for a couple of years. And then, of course, you notice the different tensions of the characters of the different people. We was all freaks, and the idea was that everybody is a freak and everybody can live out his freakiness and still be in harmony with the other people we do, because we don't do any harm to the other. When the conditions are not so easy anymore, the outside conditions, then that concept becomes more difficult. So when I saw this difficulty, I went to India in that same time, about the same time, in the I'm beginning 80s, in 79, and I learned there to transform that outside hippie life into my inner life. Because on the outside it was not really possible anymore, so you have to do it inside. That means you have to live freedom inside. Freedom from what? Freedom from your wishes, freedom from what you want and what you need and what you think is right, freedom from your ego. You just have to give your ego away. Give it back to where it belongs to. Just offer it to nature.
And in the store, how did that become represented? Did you try to transmit those values to all your customers?
Well, there's always things that you experience inside and you become like that. And it reflects also in the store, because we never ever did anything in the store to make money. The money just came. Because what we did is we worked with contrasts. For example, people think when they come in the shop, they are the king, and they can just tear everything apart and try everything on, and that is their freedom. We didn't let that happen. When a customer came into the shop, we dealt with him, we saluted him, we built up a personal relationship, and we found the exact right thing for him, because we knew our collection more than they do and better than they do, and we knew better what was good for them than they knew, because they didn't know our clothes. Yeah, so but we did. So we was giving, we was offering, we was making people happy, and we was making people feel good. That was how it reflected, the philosophy reflected in the shop. So by doing that, we got all our money.
And then what happened when Paula's came to an end in the year 2000?
In the year 2000, it came to an end because since the beginning of the 90s, I was working in Cuba with the Ballet Nacional de Cuba with Alicia Alonso. We became great friends. I always wanted to do opera. So when I met her, she was at that time also the director of the opera in La Habana in Cuba, and we wanted to do a Wagner opera, which was perfect because the then East Germany was communistic, and it had the best relationship with Cuba. So there was a cultural exchange. We could get all the Wagner singers from East Germany and bring them to Cuba to do our Wagner opera. But as we, in the course of planning it all, the Berlin Wall fell, which was a very positive and nice happening, but for us it was a disaster because nobody from East Germany wanted to go to Cuba. They all wanted to go to West Germany to see all the glitter and the flitter and all the big shops and everything, and they had absolutely no interest in to go to Cuba to sacrifice their work and their time for communistic cultural exchange. So we did a very fast change, and in time of 6 weeks, we decided to make a ballet, very short, Le Cuona, Retrato de un Vals, a story of movie stars from the 20s, and I made my first costumes and settings for that ballet in the Gran Teatro de la Habana in Havana. So that was in the 90s or end of the 80s, and I kept working with her until 2004. So in 2000, when we closed the shop, we did that because my focus was getting on something else. Because in the meantime, also from all that fame that I got in Cuba, one of our ballets was the Cinderella. That was the Cenicienta. That was the ballet that was so attractive that it broke the cultural blockade from the US for Cuba, and we was able to do a tour to New York, to Philadelphia and Los Angeles, and had a tremendous success with that ballet. So after all that fame in Cuba, they offered me to do an opera, which I always wanted to do. So actually I had to wait 12 years to do that opera at the end. And that was Così fan tutte from Mozart. And it also was a very, very big success. And it was also in the German television in the Arte program. They made a report about it because it was exceptional. And from that on, I changed completely to the opera, and I decided to create an opera festival on Ibiza, where there is no public for opera, there's no opera orchestra, there are no opera singers, there's no chorus prepared for opera, and but I wanted to do it.
As a designer, how did the opera help you channel your creativity and the Paula spirit?
It was the same. It just was flowing over from one thing to another. It was a very logical development because don't forget, I'm an architect. I did the fashion design. I worked with the ballet with Alicia Alonso, where I learned about choreography and about building up a scene on stage, bringing it to a culminating point and dissolving it again and going into another scene. And that was my lesson for stage direction. So when I did this opera festival, we had I was doing stage direction, stage setting, and the costumes. And for the costumes, I could do everything what I ever wanted to do in fashion, which I couldn't do because it was not sellable. And here Stuart came in just tremendously, because I was so busy with the stage and with the stage direction that I had the general concept, and I made basic cuts of the costumes for the opera, and then Stuart came in and he did all the decoration on top of it. Yeah, and it was an endless story of all the details. I only did the jacket and the skirt. Yeah, that was the line. That was the line and the idea what I needed for that opera. And I had the idea it should be just like a general or like a very macho guy. And Stuart put all these decorations on it in a minute. So, and that is what's happening with all the costumes. Like here for Cenicienta, I did the jacket, of course, and I had it sewn. But then he put on all these things, made all this here and this here and this here, and the hat's the same. It was a normal straw hat, which I covered in material, but he put all the edges and all the feathers and everything on it. And look here, all the details that came to it. I just made a normal collar on the jacket. I made the cut, yeah, but he put all these things on it. Yeah, and that gave it so much life and so much creation that it became very, very attractive to the people. And the costumes was also a big part of the success that we had with the opera festival. And when the opera festival was going on its highest, Jonathan came and decided to do a collaboration with LOEWE, which I said at the beginning, how can that go together? You are doing all this perfect big company with all this super organization, and I'm just fooling around with materials and colors and things freely how I want to, and all is handmade. And he said, that is exactly what I want. So as he insisted, I agreed, and at the end it turned out very beautiful. And now we are in the 4th year of it, and I think it will come out good, because I like this collection of this year very much, and even though we have that difficult time of the lockdown, I hear that the sale online is going good, and I think it will be a great success.
How would you describe the Paula's spirit today in 2020?
The Paula's spirit.
Is it alive? Is it alive and well?
Well, it is alive and well in myself, of course, and I think it is reflected in all what we did and what we created, because a material thing is never neutral. It is an object, and it becomes alive through what you put, the energy that you put into it. I was even saying that to the customers, because I was convinced about it. This little blouse that I showed you before, if you want, we can go back to that, and to the other room. So we come again into the Paula's magic here. And if you see this little blouse here, with all the detail, such a simple piece, but you have to know that the seamstress who was sewing all this by hand, all this stitch by stitch by stitch by stitch, was sitting on a stool in the country beneath a tree, and with a sheep around, and she had this blouse in her hand and was stitching it in the peace of nature. Yeah, and that energy which was worked into this piece of material, of just rough material, this energy, together with all the energy that I put in there for the prints and for the colors and for designing it, this all together makes it attractive. The customer doesn't know, it's not conscious about it, but I am. And I think that spirit is still alive in everything what we did. And I believe that people who get attractive to our style nowadays, they can still feel that and appreciate that.
Okay, well, thank you, Armin.
You're welcome.